Hello beautiful people and welcome to another video. If you love patina, vintage and rustic looking furniture, you're gonna fall in love with this one. This is my absolute favorite project of this year, so grab a drink, make yourself comfortable and enjoy. This is the second paint stripper that I've tested and it hasn't even touched it. Whatever paint this is, it's not going anywhere. I just wasted a whole bottle of paint stripper and accomplished absolutely nothing. Let's try a bit more aggressive approach. The amount of paint that someone put on this poor chest of drawers was just insane. I know what you're thinking, what was the point of taking all the paint off if you're going to remove the top? But the thing is that I didn't know what was underneath and I was hoping to save it, but some of the veneer came off with the paint and it wasn't in a good condition to begin with, so I decided to take the top off. I used my electric planer to remove some of the plywood that was stuck to the carcass, and I reattached this middle piece that actually I'm going to remove later on, but stay tuned for that. So fortunately the heat gun method worked and it was still a lot of work, but at least I was able to remove the paint. The back was eaten by woodworm and as you can see it didn't look very pretty, so I removed it. By the way, this video is a fun challenge that I'm doing with DIY with Cal, and the idea is to find a free piece of furniture, turn it into something expensive looking, sell it for as much money as we can, and make it apothecary theme.
"2,000 years later."
Now that this is sanded, I can start doing all the creative things I've been thinking about for the last few days. With this project, I decided to have as much fun as possible and just do everything I wanted to do, go for it, have no limitations on my creativity, and just have fun. Because this is Apothecary Challenge, I need to create an illusion of having more drawers than we actually have. I'm simply using my router and creating grooves vertically and horizontally that go about halfway into the drawer. And this way I'll make this chest of drawers look like it's got 36 drawers instead of 4. Obviously you need to be careful because you've got only one go, and if you mess it up there is really nothing you can do. I used some wood filler to cover up the holes from the original hardware because I wasn't going to use them. So this obviously needs a top, and I've got this desktop that someone gave me and I think I can make it work. To hide the fact that I'm cutting this, I'm going to remove this trim and I will reattach it once I've cut it. That will do. This was kindly given to me by one of my viewers named Rob. It was in a very bad condition. The veneer was peeling off and the leatherette was coming off as well, but it was perfect for what I needed. I used some super glue and activator to reattach the veneer and the leatherette that were peeling off, and Bob's your uncle. If you watch my videos, you know that I mostly do restorations. With this project, I don't even know what to call it other than reverse restoration, because I'm basically trying to make it look older than it is, age it, and add lots of character and features to this piece of furniture that it never had to begin with. So basically, I'm trying to reverse everything that I normally do. This is the piece I just cut off, so this is the exact length of the trim that I need. So I'm just going to take it off and attach it on this end. And Bob's your uncle. I'm not going to hide these nails, I'm using brass nails because I'm fancy AF. The whole point of reusing this top is to make it look vintage, so I don't want to sand too much, I just want to clean it up a little bit. Because I wanted to preserve as much of the character and the rustic look, and because it was really dirty, I just gave it a good clean with alcohol and then use some leather cleaner that I use normally for my car's upholstery. And it seems like it did the trick. My little router wasn't really powerful enough to do it, so I got this 1/2-inch bit for the big boy, and I think this will make the job much easier. Looks like Mando is coming to inspect the project. What do you think? Good idea or bad idea? You're probably thinking, where's my ham, huh? So just to explain what I'm doing, the veneer on the sides was in a pretty bad condition. There was a lot of paint stuck in it and there was no way for me to clean it up or sand it, and I didn't want to replace it because I didn't want to make it look new. So I decided to turn it into something cool. Luckily, the plywood underneath was quite thick, which allowed me to create this pattern, and as you know, plywood has many layers, and as you go deeper, each layer has different color, which gave this really cool look. And just trust the process, because it's gonna look much better. Even though the router bit gave me a very clean finish, and it pretty much looked like it was sanded, I used nylon brush and this sanding wheel thingy just to smooth it out a bit more. For whatever reason, there was a crack that got exposed as I was creating this pattern in some places, so I just used some wood filler to fill those gaps. I used the old plywood from the back as a template for the new one, and I reattached it. This is an oil-based stain in color called espresso, and I used it because it's got this cool dark academia type of vibe that I was going for. I used a small artist brush and put a bit more stain in those grooves just to create an illusion of an actual cat. I also stained the rest of the chest of drawers, including the top and the leatherette, and as you can see, the stain didn't actually change the color of the leather, but helped it blend in with the rest. Remember when I said trust the process? Sometimes I actually don't trust it. But now that I'm staining the side, you can see the pattern emerging and it's looking cool. It's not finished though. There is more coming, and just wait. This is the underside of the new top, and I'm just sanding it because it didn't look great. I decided to spray paint it black because I had a certain idea. I changed my mind I think 2 more times, but I just wanted to basically show you how many iterations I had gone through before I arrived at the final result. Though I did my best, there is still a lot of little bits of white paint that you can see in the grain, so I decided to spray the whole thing with lacquer toner, and that just made a huge difference. And you might be able to see that it's not spraying very well, so I just put it in warm water because that helps a lot. I'm sure that you can see that not only this is helping to cover those tiny bits of paint, but also this is making the grain pop and it's just changing the whole look. I really like this lacquer toner because it gives you the fan-shaped spraying pattern, unlike the cone-shaped, which just makes it much easier to apply it and just makes it more even, which is very important with lacquer toner because you want it to look even. I'll let you enjoy this because I think this is very satisfying to watch, and this video doesn't have a sponsor other than you guys because you help to keep the lights on in the shop, and if anyone would like to support what I do, you can find all the links in the description, or you can just give me a super likes or buy me a coffee via Buy Me a Coffee. And as always, I just wanted to say a huge thank you because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without you guys, and I really appreciate it. And a special shout out to the channel members, you guys are the best. When I was finished with the lacquer toner, I went over the whole thing with satin clear lacquer from Morel's, and then when it was dry, I used extra fine steel wool just to smooth everything out before the next coat. And as much as I enjoyed this finish, because it looks very nice, I'm going to make it look a bit more matte because it doesn't really go with this idea of rustic and vintage looking piece. And talking about rustic and vintage looking, I'm going to put lots of different bits of hardware on this chest of drawers, but this doesn't just look right, so I decided to age it, and I'm using this solution that you dilute with water. It's 1:10 ratio, and just stick it in, and about 5-10 minutes later it's aged. And the reason I started with acetone is because I wanted to get rid of the lacquer that was on this hardware, just to make it easier. But later in the video, instead of acetone, I'll just use steel wool just to rough it up a bit. These are absolutely perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I think I'm gonna spray like a matte clear coat on top just to protect it. These corner protectors will also work as sliders, and I do like them. I think this was a good choice. And for the top, I've got these. I just need to age them so they match the bottom ones. And because my microphone decided to quit, I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. So at the beginning of the video, I reattached and re-glued this piece that I'm taking out right now because I decided that I want to close this and make it into some sort of surface that you can do things on, like your makeup or I don't know, whatever. So I basically just use dominoes, which happen to fit perfectly in that little gap, and then I cut a piece of plywood and just glued it on top. By the way, this project is not going to be sold by the time I post the video, and I might actually keep it for myself, but let me know how much you would pay for it and if I accomplish the goal. So after gluing that piece of plywood down and creating a desktop type of surface, I decided to make the top open and put a mirror inside, because why not? And the way I'm designing this is that it will look like a chest of drawers and you don't ever need to open it if you don't want to. But if you want to store your clothes in the bottom drawers and your makeup in the top drawer, you can use this as vanity if you want to. I basically just used strong double-sided tape and cut a piece of mirror that fit perfectly in that little space in the middle, and that's it. And because this is all about making this look vintage and rustic and dark academia, apothecary, and whatever, this is just the style that I really like. On top of adding those corner protectors, I also have these that I will add to the lid, and the brass hinges I'm just using to make the lid open and close. And now I just need to come up with an idea how to keep the lid open so it doesn't just close itself. And normally it would be pretty straightforward. I could use some sort of hinge or whatever, but there was really no space between the top lid and this flat surface, so I didn't have much room to work with. I used one of those eye-pin screws or eyelet screws, whatever you want to call it, and I attached it to the lid, but I needed to make a small pocket that it would go into when I close the lid, otherwise I wouldn't be able to close it. And then after I've done that, I used brass wire and basically attached it to that eye pin, put it through the hole and attach it underneath on the inside of the chest of drawers. And guess what? And Bob's your uncle. I used a tiny brush with a little bit of stain to stain the inside of the pocket I created, so there was no exposed wood. I used beeswax on the drawers inside and out, and it was looking pretty snazzy. Concealed mirror, anyone? Want to look at your gorgeous face as you're putting your underwear on? What do you guys think? Time for the fun bits. According to Amazon, this is red-brown. Obviously it's not, it's black. And it's not what I wanted, so I'm gonna see if I can bleach this and stain it so it actually matches the overall look. I'm also going to age these handles and these as well. And I think I'm gonna do two different types. For the little drawers on the top, I'm going to attach a tiny round pull plus this label holder, and for the bigger drawers I'm going to just use these ones. So now that I actually have this in person, even if I change the color of it, I don't really like the look of it, and I think I'm gonna go with these, which I've already aged a little bit so it works with the aesthetic because it was different metal. The reason I'm using screws for the bottom half is because the nails are way too long for the plywood. And would you look at that, it works. By the way, these latches are completely unnecessary, they just look cool. I left this one overnight. This is proper aged. Maybe too much. I just wanted to see what it looks like. And now that I know, I use steel wool just to rough up the finish a little bit and make it easy for the solution to work, and I put the remaining hardware in the solution. I also need 24 of these. I was genuinely getting so excited at this point because this was coming together and I really liked what I was seeing. I've got loads of these super thin, almost like thick paper pieces of plywood, and I think I'm gonna use this for the labels because that's gonna look much better than paper, and I can stain the wood if I want to. Because I had to make so many of them, I created a simple template in Xtool Creative Space software, and I use American typewriter font because this just gives you that vintage look. And yeah, that was pretty simple. This definitely worked. This looked really old and rusty. It's funny because I normally try to remove rust and restore things, but this time it's the other way around. This is the next day and it's looking pretty awesome. It's definitely aged. And to make the labels even more vintage, I used lacquer toner in light pecan, I believe, and I think this is just the look I was going for. I feel like there's something missing here, and I've got this piece that came from a different project and it's obviously too long, but I think I can either just cut off the ends and shape them, or I can cut it in the middle and make it shorter. Cutting it in the middle seemed like much quicker and easier option, so I went with that one. I think that looks okay. And to make it super simple, I used domino to connect those two pieces, and then I sanded them and restained them just to make it look like the rest of the chest of drawers. And I should have let it dry properly before I attached it to the chest of drawers, but I'm impatient. And I don't remember what you call this, but this is like a double-ended nail that you nail in using this short piece of tube thingy, and it connects to pieces of wood like so. This came apart a little bit as I was nailing this down, so I'm just going to make this into a decorative feature and just filling the gap with gilding wax. And that's what happens when you're impatient, which in this case I think actually turned out great and I like it. And now I just need to attach a load of hardware. I must say that aging the screws was such a good idea because it just adds a lot and just makes it look more legit. Having 42 handles or things that you need to put on sounds like a great idea until you need to do it. It definitely takes a while. But come on, I honestly don't care what anybody says. This is my favorite thing I've ever done. It looks awesome. And I hope you guys agree. Check out Cal's video, see what he did for this challenge. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.